An e-bike explosion turned a Toronto subway car into an inferno in just 2 seconds. I spoke with Deputy Chief Larry Cocco to uncover what happened and the dangers riders face.
So New Year's Eve, 2023, around 3 in the afternoon, we get a call for service regarding a fire in a occupied subway car. The preliminary information was that the incident involved an e-bike that was on the car at the time. And essentially, we were very, very fortunate that this thermal runaway incident occurred almost simultaneously as the car was stopping at the platform, allowing for the doors to open and allow for the occupants, which were several of them in the car at the time of the failure, to egress and avoid serious injury. We had one individual suffered a minor injury, thankfully, but you'll see when we look at the video, the thermal runaway happens unexpectedly so rapidly that it actually overcomes the entire car. And you could see from the video it would no longer be tenable by the grace of timing.
Just seconds. I couldn't imagine if that had actually happened somewhere in the tunnel. I don't know that. I think the outcome would have been much worse. I think there probably would have been a fatality. Would you agree?
I agree, because if you look at the rapid expansion of gases and, it's not tenable, the hot gases and, the incomplete combustion, you just can't support breathing, and that would have probably led to a serious injury and or a fatality.
For this one, there's only minor injuries.
One minor injury, that's it, thankfully.
Yeah, that really is fantastic. Now, as far as this year, I do see, and I know it's nothing to do with the fire department, but the subway system, they've actually banned e-bikes from the cars.
Our subway system's operated by the Toronto Transit Commission, which is an independent agency from the city, and upon this incident, they were looking at best practices on what to do because it's quite prevalent for individuals to bring e-bikes onto the transit system. So where they landed following their consultation was to start with a ban in winter months. And the reason for that is this specific bike, the manufacturer's instructions are not to use it in the winter cold months. And another, manufacturer's recommendation is not to use the vehicle for commercial purposes. So ironically, in this incident, it was being used for commercial purposes for food delivery and being operated in the winter months. So the TTC independently decided to start with a ban during the winter months.
And I think that ban ends, I believe, April 15th.
That's correct. Now, this highlights a challenge for all fire services because, as you know, when a lithium-ion battery goes into thermal runaway, there's a whole reasons that occurs, but it's very unpredictable. Could be from, alteration, physical abuse, damage. As a fire service, to definitively predict when these are going to occur, my position was we don't know. There's a whole bunch of variables. The one thing we do know is this battery was not certified. It was being operated in the cold, not in compliance with the manufacturer's instructions, and was being used for commercial purposes.
It's not just the cold either. It's in Toronto, just like Michigan, you're gonna have slushy sidewalks, probably salt there, so probably lead to some type of saltwater intrusion. Now, the battery should be sealed up, but that's not necessarily always the case.
Well, you make a good point because when we did this investigation, we were fortunate to get the cooperation of the manufacturer. I personally went to the manufacturer's facility and we were able to examine about, I'm just estimating between 80 and 100 exemplar batteries that of the same style and model. And this model was not certified, had a USB port, what they called courtesy charging port. So if you're operating your e-bike and you want to charge your bike, your battery on your phone, there's a USB port that you could put in your cord and then charge your cell phone at the same time. That little USB port has a rubber grommet. And if that rubber grommet's not in place, it can allow for water intrusion quite readily into the battery. And when we looked at the exemplars, we found several batteries displaying moisture. So positive that moisture had gone into the cell compartment. So we couldn't definitively say that was the root cause of the fire. However, you add the three components. It wasn't certified. You have a potential water outlet input from that port. You also have it being operated in cold winter with the presence of salt and being used in a commercial capacity. At the end of the day, we ascertained it's an accidental thermal runaway, and those are the factors. We couldn't definitively point to the specific causation, but those were all factors that came into consideration.
Once those bikes are thoroughly damaged to that degree, it's really difficult to come up with any type of cause.
Yeah. So we're, in similar to United States and Canada, we don't have legislation that mandates that the sale of e-bikes all have to be certified. I think that's as a consistent issue across North America. I know there's a move afoot to, pass legislation. Here's one of the challenges. If I do a legislation locally in the city of Toronto by way of bylaw, that doesn't solve the problem because we're a large metropolitan area. We have people coming in from all parts of Ontario, and if their city doesn't have that bylaw, potentially the bikes could be not certified. So that wouldn't solve the problem. And again, if we do it provincially, that doesn't solve the problem across Canada. We need to have a solution that mandates the sale of these, what I would say, high energy batteries. Are not small. They have a lot of potential energy. There needs to be a standard in which they're all certified.
Are you seeing a lot of e-bike fires outside of the subway in Toronto?
Yeah, we are. I haven't looked at the data recently, the year-end data, but we have seen an increase year after year of lithium-ion battery fires, and I would say about 50% of our fires are related to micro mobility devices.
And I know, like most municipalities, once they start tracking lithium-ion battery fires, you really find out you have a lot more than you realized.
That is the case. So we started tracking in about 2020, and we saw once we started putting in metrics, because our reporting system didn't have a category for lithium-ion batteries. Yeah, and so we put in some metrics in place to start manually tracking it, and we saw an exponential increase, like a huge jump, because we started looking and tracking. And you're bang on, Patrick. If you're not looking, you don't know what your risk is. So
And hopefully the fire service as a whole, we start really looking, tracking this data. I know right now, even in the US, it's not really being tracked. It sounds like across Canada as a whole, it's not really being tracked either. It's really up to the individual municipalities.
yeah, we're working with our provincial fire marshal's office. They have started tracking the data as well, so we're starting to get a better picture of the risk. Toronto Fire developed a public education campaign and produced some public safety announcements that we've actually shared with our provincial counterparts that are being disseminated across the province. And we've also shared that with the International Association of Fire Chiefs to allow municipalities to take the creative material and just put their own letterhead on it and disseminate it to the public. Because we're seeing the four top causes, device alteration, device overcharging, in it non-compatible batteries, and damage, abuse. With this technology has come with a whole host of other risks that we, as the fire service, need to address. We need training, we need funding, we need legislation. There's a whole package of what needs to happen to address this emerging risk. But like everything with technology exceeds regulation. Regulation takes years to catch up.
Yeah, decades sometimes.
Yes. Just, I'd remind the viewers if they're interested, the IFC has a link on lithium-ion batteries, and there's our material was shared on that link. So if you wanna get our public education materials and use it your service, by all means, please use it.
I'll share a link in the description below then.
Perfect.
Thank you for your time, and it was great talking to you again.
Same to you, Patrick. Thank you.